Let's go emotionally into kind of what that journey looked like through the transition from high school as a four-star Elite 11 quarterback to then being in college and, as you say, falling on your face or just not having the opportunity to play and feeling, different than you had before, definitely not comfortable. Talk to me a little bit about the psychological piece of the emotions that you felt as you were struggling to kind of figure things out while you were fighting it initially.
Yeah, I mean, to go back for sure, I mean, being in high school and being a high recruit and being part of the Elite 11 is definitely boosts your confidence and definitely makes you feel like you're a damn good player. And I felt like I was a damn good player. I mean, I was throwing with Deshaun Watson and I felt like I was right there with him, and to see what he's doing now, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that much, but to know that I was there at one point with him in high school and to see where he trajected and where I kind of trajected once I got to college was very interesting. And it was also super enlightening to see how the emotion has the effect that it does. And so when I got to college, when I got to UW and wasn't playing very well, something was off. There was something for sure off. And I was still working and I was still knocking down the door, showing up and putting in the work and trying to get better, but I just wasn't improving. I couldn't figure it out. I mentally couldn't figure it out. And I just kept, going down that tunnel and keep working, but I couldn't figure it out. And that was definitely an emotional low. I mean, like I said, if you're working at anything, a relationship, a marriage, or whatever, if you're putting in work in 24/7, 365 and nonstop work, I'm talking all night, all day, and you don't feel improvement, it has to be one of the worst feelings in the world. I can't imagine anything it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so that's what I couldn't get around to, and that's what I couldn't accept. And so that despair of feeling that kind of trappedness of knowing that I was putting in so much work but not getting improvement, I couldn't wrap my head around or understand. And then kind of waiting on until later on in my career to reassess the position and come back and then start to feel all that improvement as I made changes was now the best feeling in the world. It was the exact opposite of what I had gone through.
So let's dive into that. Let's dive into that. So as you started to reinvent yourself mechanically and make those transitions, talk to me about what your mindset was through the whole thing. You just spoke to us about rules and how the rules led you astray initially into thinking that there was one way of doing things. So as you kind of broke your mindset that you had that had put you in a place where you obviously weren't feeling great and the emotional lows were rough. Talk to us about the mindset and process behind you essentially reinventing yourself, both as a quarterback, mechanically, mentally, all of it, holistically.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, I basically took every single barrier or every single rule or, anything that had been taught to me and just threw it off the table. I completely threw it off the table and just said, I'm completely reassessing this with no limit, no idea or no conceptions of what it's supposed to be, what it has to be, in what anyone else has said. And I just watched it for myself. I just studied it for myself. And when I studied the best, Rodgers and all these dudes, that's when I started to change everything about my game to try and simulate or emulate their game. Because if we want to be the best, what we have to do is copy the best. That's the best place to start, is literally to just see what the best do and just start to copy it. And don't take the bottom half of the NFL, because there's a lot of stuff that the bottom half of the NFL doesn't do great. Take the very best at whatever position they are at, whether it's football, quarterback, whether it's business, anything. And if you just study what they do, you can become that. And so it was me studying that for myself without anyone else's conceptions or anyone else's, biases or anything, to just say, all right, I'm just going to watch this and I'm going to try and copy it. And that's pretty much what I did. And slowly I started to adapt the style of play that these guys, Pat Mahomes and all these guys, play the game with. And then once I started to adapt that same style with zero conception or zero adherence to anything, because I had nothing that I was tethered to or hanging on to as something that I had to do. Now I was just able to let go and completely just play free, which is the philosophy and the psychology behind the position, where once you enter that space, now you're able to actually just play the game how we're supposed to play the game, which is free. We're not supposed to be tied to these rules and tied, because that's just a tight, bogged down mind that's not able to play and react to this game, because this game is reaction. It's not just robotic, like just playing catch from 10 yards away. This game requires movement, and so we have to be able to move with our body.
Love it. So as we talk, basically your mental process there and what you talked about in terms of relinquishing the ideas of what had been in your head before and how that, I have a degree in psychology and it's a huge passion of mine. And as I break it down from a psychological standpoint, it's entering flow state. And as we're in flow state, as we break that down, it's system one and system two ways of thinking. System one is essentially 2 + 2 = 4. Like, I didn't do the math problem as I did that. I was able to just inherently react because I've seen it enough. That would be the mechanics that you have now and the way you play the game now. Then system two is analytical. What's 56 times 14? It's like, I'd have to get a pen and paper out in order to do that. It's going to take me more time. I'm not near as reactionary. So what I would be curious to hear from you is, what's the difference in feeling? Like when you talk about feeling system one and flow state, which is where you are now, versus system two at Washington, trying to figure it out mentally. Talk about just the difference in the way that those two things feel in whatever ways you think you feel them the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think system one, and I can speak to most highly right now because it's so fresh and I feel this every day, is that I don't think about anything. Like, there's really nothing that I feel I have to do at all times, or my mind simply is just there where I'm at. I'm present and I'm just playing the game. Versus at my time at Washington early on in my career, I was bogged down. I had these limitations and I had these things, these reminders, these subtle checklist reminder things that I was telling myself on repeat as I would play the position during the game. And if you're doing that, you're now playing against yourself and you're playing against the defense. Versus when I'm playing the way that I'm playing right now, I'm playing strictly against the defense. I'm strictly here playing the opponent as opposed to playing the opponent and playing the opponent that's up here. So that's
no, the way that you articulate that is beautiful. Now, how is that process earned? Is that from trusting yourself in any particular situation and any movement, just knowing because you've done it so many times, or you trust your body so well to, remain in a state where you don't have to think about anything that you're doing? Or how do you articulate how you've earned that ability? Because obviously it's comfort, but how did you step into that? Is it just a byproduct of everything? Kind of talk about how you see that.
Yeah, I think it's a byproduct of everything, but I also think it's simply, just the work and practice, but putting your body in different positions, different angles, just literally different body positions, and seeing yourself be able to make throws regardless of whether your body is, leaning to the left, or if your body's leaning to the right, or if you're throwing over the top, or if you're throwing sidearm. Once you start to unlock that you can be just as accurate and put the ball wherever you want, no matter where your body is positionally angular, then there's nothing to be worried about. Why would I fear having to step up in the pocket and my body being like leaned to the right, or I have to get it around a defender when I just did it in practice. I just did it in practice, so I know I can complete that ball and I know it's going to go exactly where I want. So there's no reason for me to question or even doubt that I'm about to make this throw because I've done it so many times and I've put my body in that position in practice and I've seen I can do it. So now there's no reason for myself to doubt and I know I'm going to make that play. So that's how I've stepped into it, is just by manipulating the game, by not just being stuck in this robotic sense of where the pocket is perfectly clean, because that's not how this game is played. This game is played by moving and playing, and there's so much going on. Our tackle could get beat here, and now we have to step up. There's so much going on that our bodies have to be in different positions, and so if we practice putting them in different positions but still able to deliver the ball, then there's nothing to be worried about. Now we can just play the game.